The great tomb of Nazareth stood in complete silence. Deep beneath the earth, massive stone halls stretched endlessly, lit by glowing crystals that cast long shadows across the polished floor. Every servant, every undead soldier, and every guardian carried out their duties without hesitation, as if the tomb itself had become a living kingdom that never stopped moving. Above, the world continued its daily life, unaware that one of the greatest powers in history was quietly watching from the darkness. Inside the throne room, Ain's old gown sat upon his massive throne, overlooking the empty hall in front of him. The silence lasted only a few moments before the giant doors slowly opened. Albedo walked inside with calm, graceful steps before lowering herself onto one knee, her wings folding neatly behind her. "Good morning, Ain-sama," she said with complete respect, waiting for her master's next command. Ains looked down at Albedo for a brief moment before speaking in his usual calm voice. "Rise, Albedo. Begin your report. I want to know everything that has happened both inside Nazareth and throughout the Sorcerer Kingdom." His words echoed across the throne room as Albedo stood and opened the documents she had prepared. Today seemed no different from any other day, and neither of them knew that in only a few short moments, something completely unknown would appear and begin changing the fate of their world. Albedo gave a respectful nod before beginning her report. The Sorcerer Kingdom remains stable. Ain-sama. Trade with neighboring nations continues to grow. Undead labor has increased production, and no major threats have been reported within our borders. She paused for a moment before turning to the next page. The Guardians have completed every assignment without issue, and Nazareth's defenses remain as strong as ever. Ains quietly listened without interrupting. Although he appeared calm on the outside, his mind carefully went over every detail Albedo mentioned. "Good," he finally replied. "And what of Demiurge? His operation in the Holy Kingdom should be nearing its final stage." Even after everything Nazareth had accomplished, Ains knew that overlooking even the smallest detail could lead to unexpected problems. "Demiurge has sent his latest report," Albedo answered without hesitation. "The demi-human forces are in position. Their supplies have been secured, and the assault on the Holy Kingdom's border fortress will begin within the next few days. Everything is moving exactly as planned." A small smile appeared on her face. "As expected of Demiurge, Ain-sama, he has once again carried out your vision flawlessly." Ains rested one hand against the arm of his throne as he thought over Albedo's report. "Very well. Inform Demiurge that he may continue as planned, but remind him to remain cautious. Even the smallest unexpected event can ruin years of preparation." Albedo lowered her head. "As you command, Ain-sama, I will send your orders immediately." Before another word could be spoken, a strange feeling spread through the throne room. It lasted only a heartbeat, yet every guardian present instinctively looked up. The air itself seemed heavier, as though the world had briefly stopped breathing. Even Ain's emotional suppression activated, a soft green glow flashing across his skeletal body before disappearing just as quickly. Albedo's wings twitched sharply behind her, her usual composure cracking as her fingers tightened against her dress. Shaltier's crimson eyes widened, her lips parting in uncharacteristic uncertainty, while Cositus shifted his stance, his blades faintly rattling, as if reacting to an unseen pressure. Silence filled the room. Ains slowly rose from the throne of kings, his crimson lights fixed on the massive doors ahead. "That," he said quietly, pausing as if weighing the sensation itself, "felt wrong. That wasn't magic, nor a world item. Whatever it was, I've never felt anything like it before." Albedo's confident expression vanished for the first time that day. Whatever had just touched the world, it was something Nazareth had never encountered before. For several long seconds, no one moved. The throne room, usually filled with absolute confidence, had become unsettlingly quiet. Every guardian waited for Ain's command, their eyes fixed on the ruler of Nazareth. If something existed that even Ains did not recognize, then it demanded their full attention. Ains broke the silence. Albedo. His voice was calm, but every guardian immediately straightened. Seal Nazarick. Raise the security level to its highest state. No one leaves or enters without my permission. Albedo bowed deeply. At once, Ainsama, without wasting another second, she turned and began issuing orders through the communication network, while Shaltir, Cositus, Aura, and Mare silently prepared themselves for whatever might come next. Ain's thoughts raced beneath his emotionless expression. An unknown phenomenon. No mana fluctuations, meaning no spell casting or magical discharge had occurred. No sign of wild magic. The unique distortions and ancient signatures it always left behind were completely absent. No indication that a world item has been activated. There was no overwhelming pressure or reality warping effect that such artifacts inevitably produced. Then what caused it? It almost sounded like something entirely different, something beyond even the known systems of this world. He slowly looked toward the magical mirror used to observe distant lands. Bring me every report from our intelligence network, he ordered. I want to know if anyone, anywhere in this world, witnessed what we just felt. Leave nothing unchecked. Should I recall Demiurge from the Holy Kingdom operation? Albedo asked. There was no panic in her voice, only concern. If this unknown phenomenon posed even the slightest threat to Ains, every other mission became secondary. The room fell silent once again as everyone waited for his answer. Ains closed his eyes for a brief moment before speaking. No, Demiurge's preparations have been underway for months. We will not abandon the operation because of a single unknown event. He paused, carefully weighing every possibility. However, inform him of what occurred. Tell him to remain alert and report anything unusual immediately. If this anomaly appears near the Holy Kingdom, I want to know before anyone else. As you command. Albedo placed a hand over her chest and bowed once more. At that same moment, one of Nazarick's intelligence officers hurried into the throne room before dropping to one knee. Ainsa, the undead messenger said, unable to hide the urgency in his voice. Reports are beginning to arrive from across the continent. Witnesses from multiple nations claim the sky itself changed for only a brief moment. The phenomenon was seen almost everywhere, but no one can explain what caused it. Ains remained silent as the messenger finished. If the phenomenon had been seen across multiple nations, it was far beyond a simple magical accident. The entire continent, he thought. No spell I know could do this without leaving a trace. The possibility of another player crossed his mind, and despite his emotion suppressor, caution settled over him. Has anyone reported casualties? Ains asked. The messenger lowered his head. None, Ains Sama. No cities were damaged, no monsters became aggressive, and no changes were observed beyond the brief disturbance in the sky. That only deepened the mystery. Something powerful enough to be noticed worldwide had left no destruction. Ains rose from the throne and stepped toward the large magical mirror. Expand the search radius, he ordered. Focus on unexplored regions, mountains, forests, and areas with little human activity. Whatever entered this world may have sought isolation, or perhaps it wasn't even a person. The room fell silent as the mirror's surface rippled, preparing to reveal the first clue that would change the fate of the new world forever. The surface of the mirror shimmered as countless locations flashed across it one after another. Vast forests, frozen mountains, abandoned ruins, and empty plains appeared for only a few seconds before fading into the next. Ains carefully studied each scene while the Guardians remained completely silent behind him. Minutes passed, yet nothing seemed out of place. Then the image suddenly flickered. The mirror showed a remote mountain range far from any known kingdom. Half of a cliff had simply vanished, as if an invisible force had erased it in an instant. Ancient trees lay flattened for hundreds of meters in every direction, but there were no burn marks, no signs of magic, and no monster tracks. It looked less like a battle and more like the world itself had been torn apart for a single moment. Ains narrowed the crimson lights within his empty eye sockets. Freeze the image. The mirror obeyed immediately. His gaze settled on two enormous craters at the center of the destruction, spaced only a short distance apart. Whatever had landed there possessed unimaginable force, yet no bodies remained. "Interesting," he murmured. "Something arrived here, and it walked away." A quiet unease spread through the throne room as every guardian realized the same thing. Whatever had entered the new world was still out there. The image in the mirror slowly came into focus. A barren mountain range stretched across the landscape, but something was wrong. Two massive craters scarred the earth, surrounded by shattered cliffs and thousands of broken trees. There were no signs of spell circles, no lingering mana, and no monsters feeding on the destruction. It was as if two objects had fallen from the heavens, struck the ground with impossible force, and simply disappeared. "Ainsama," Albedo said quietly, unable to hide the concern in her voice. "Should I lead the Guardians there personally?" Before Ains could answer, Shaltir stepped forward with a confident smile. "If unknown enemies have appeared, allow me to eliminate them before they become a threat." Cositus lowered his head in agreement. "If they possess such strength, they deserve to be met by a warrior." Even Aura looked unusually serious, while Mare silently gripped the end of his staff. Ains kept his eyes fixed on the mirror. They're already assuming this is an enemy, but assumptions get people killed. After several moments of thought, he finally spoke. "No, we know nothing about whoever caused this. Charging in blindly would be foolish." He turned toward Aura. "Take several of your strongest beasts and observe the area from a distance. Under no circumstances are you to engage. If you are discovered, retreat immediately." Aura placed a fist against her chest and smiled. "Understood, Ainsama. I'll find out exactly what we're dealing with." As Aura prepared to leave, another voice echoed through the throne room. "Ainsama." Pandora's actor stepped forward and adjusted his military cap. "If I may, this event shares no known similarities with Yggdrasil magic, wild magic, or any historical records within Nazarik's archives. If these beings truly fell from the sky," he paused for a moment, "then we should also consider the possibility that they did not originate from this world." Those words hung heavily in the air. Ain said nothing, but his mind immediately reached the same conclusion. Players, or was something even stranger. He had spent years preparing for the return of another player. Yet whatever had happened today felt different. There had been no magic, no familiar power, and no sign that any system he understood had been involved. The unknown was always the greatest threat. "Maintain absolute secrecy," Ains finally ordered. "No kingdom, no adventurer, and no ally is to learn what we have discovered. Until we know exactly who or what has entered this world, Nazarik will remain in the shadows." Every guardian bowed at once. "Yes, Ainsama." Without another word, Aura left to begin her mission, while far beyond the reach of Nazarik, in a lonely mountain range untouched by civilization, two unconscious figures slowly began to stir beneath the broken stone. And with their awakening, a storm unlike any Nazarik had ever faced began to gather. Far from the borders of any kingdom, the mountain range remained completely silent. Broken cliffs surrounded two enormous craters, while dust slowly drifted through the air like a thick morning fog. Not a single monster dared approach. The creatures that called these mountains home had long since fled, driven away by an instinct they couldn't understand. One of the figures buried beneath the shattered rock suddenly twitched. Large pieces of stone rolled aside as a hand pushed through the rubble, followed by the sound of heavy breathing. A man with wild black hair slowly pulled himself free, brushing dust from his orange GI before looking around in confusion. "Huh, did I fall asleep or something?" Goku muttered, scratching his head as he blinked at the unfamiliar surroundings. His eyes lit up with curiosity rather than concern. Whoa, this place is kind of weird. The last thing he remembered was sparring with Vegeta before everything around them had been swallowed by a blinding light. A few hundred meters away, another explosion of stone shattered the silence. Vegeta burst from beneath the mountain with enough force to send massive boulders flying through the air. He landed firmly on solid ground, his sharp eyes immediately scanning the unfamiliar landscape, every muscle tense and ready. "Tisich," he spat, irritation flashing across his face as he took in the alien sky. "This isn't Earth." His gaze narrowed, calculating, already searching for threats or answers. Then his attention snapped toward the second crater in the distance, sensing a familiar energy. A cold smirk tugged at his lips. "Of course you're still alive," Kakarot. Within moments, the two scions met in the middle of the broken valley. Goku smiled like nothing strange had happened. "Good, you're okay." Vegeta crossed his arms, clearly annoyed. "Don't start acting relieved. Figure out where we are." Goku looked around again, then closed his eyes for a few seconds, trying to sense the familiar energy of Earth. When he opened them, his smile was gone. "I can't find anyone," Goku said quietly. "Not Gohan, not Piccolo, not even Krillin." Vegeta had already realized the same thing. He had been searching since he climbed out of the crater, but the planet felt empty. There wasn't a single energy he knew. "Either we're farther away than I thought," he muttered, "or we're not on Earth anymore." Before they could speak again, a low growl rolled through the valley, deep and rough, but too steady to be from a normal animal. It didn't echo. It felt like it pushed against the air. Another growl followed, closer this time. Then more, blending together until the ground seemed to shake. From the broken trees, shapes began to move. Pairs of eyes lit up in the dark, dozens of them, cold and focused. Huge wolf-like creatures stepped into view, their bodies tall and strange, muscles moving under thick, scarred skin. Their fur was rough and uneven, sticking up along their backs, and their mouth hung open just enough to show long, uneven teeth covered in saliva. Each breath came out slow and heavy, like the air didn't want to be near them. They didn't rush. They circled, slow, careful, watching. Their claws scraped against the broken ground, and they moved together in a way that felt planned, as if they were waiting for the right moment to attack. One stepped forward into the light, showing eyes that didn't just look hungry, they looked aware. Goku tilted his head, watching them with simple curiosity, though his eyes grew a bit sharper. "Huh, I've never seen animals like these before." Vegeta didn't even look at him. His face hardened, a small smirk forming. "Whatever they are," he said coldly, "they're about to make a very stupid mistake." The largest wolf suddenly lunged, its jaws opening wide as it sprang straight for Goku's throat. The others followed a heartbeat later, charging from every direction with surprising speed. Dust exploded beneath their paws as the entire pack attacked at once, convinced they had cornered two easy prey. Goku didn't move. The wolf slammed into him with enough force to crack the stone beneath his feet, yet Goku barely shifted an inch. He blinked in surprise as the creature desperately bit down on his shoulder, its fangs scraping harmlessly against the fabric of his GI before breaking with a sharp crack. The beast stumbled backward, whining in pain while Goku scratched his head. "Huh, I guess they're stronger than normal wolves." Vegeta let out a quiet scoff. Pathetic. Before another beast could reach him, he vanished. A loud shockwave ripped through the valley as he reappeared in the middle of the pack, delivering a single kick that launched the massive creature over the treetops until it disappeared beyond the mountains. Every remaining wolf froze. Their growls stopped. One by one, they slowly backed away, tails lowered and bodies trembling. Whatever instinct had driven them to hunt had now been replaced by something far stronger, fear. Not one of the remaining wolves dared move. The largest among them slowly struggled back to its feet, blood dripping from its mouth where its broken fangs had once been. It stared at Goku and Vegeta for several long seconds before lowering its head. A deep whine escaped its throat as it took a careful step backward. The rest of the pack immediately followed. Within moments, every wolf had turned and fled into the forest, disappearing between the trees without looking back. Goku watched them leave before letting out a small sigh. "I'm glad they ran away. I didn't really want to hurt them." Vegeta scoffed as he looked toward the distant mountains. They were smart enough to realize the difference between hunting and suicide. He paused, his eyes narrowing. But they weren't the only ones watching. Several kilometers away, hidden high among a rocky cliff, 3 figures lay motionless beneath dark cloaks. They had been tracking the strange wolves since sunrise, hoping to complete a routine hunting request from the nearby Adventurers Guild. Instead, they had witnessed something that shattered everything they believed they knew about strength. The oldest of the 3 slowly lowered the enchanted spyglass from his eyes, his hands trembling. "Those weren't spells," he whispered. "They never chanted, never used magic. And they defeated an entire death wolf pack without drawing a weapon." None of them spoke again. For the first time in their lives, they had no idea what they had just seen. The oldest adventurer forced himself to take a slow breath, but his hands refused to stop shaking. He had fought monsters for nearly 20 years, survived trolls, ogres, and even escaped a young dragon once. None of those memories compared to what he had just witnessed. "We're leaving," he whispered. "Now." "But what if they're hostile?" one of the younger adventurers asked, unable to pull his eyes away from the 2 strangers standing in the ruined valley. "If they wanted us dead," the older man replied, "we would have never known they were there." Neither Goku nor Vegeta turned around. Even from several kilometers away, they had noticed the 3 adventurers the moment the wolves appeared. Their heartbeats, breathing, and faint movements through the rocks were impossible to miss. Vegeta gave a quiet scoff. "They've been watching us this whole time." Goku smiled. "Yeah, they don't feel dangerous." "So," Vegeta folded his arms, "they're either scouts or they're scared." Goku looked toward the distant cliff where the 3 figures remained frozen. "I think they're just confused." Meanwhile, the adventurers made their decision. Moving as carefully as possible, they slowly backed away from the edge of the cliff. No one spoke. No one dared make a sound louder than a whisper. The only thought running through their minds was reaching the nearest city alive. They had accepted a simple monster hunting request that morning. Instead, they had discovered 2 men capable of stopping monsters that even adamantite adventurers would avoid, with nothing more than their bare hands. Goku watched the 3 adventurers disappear over the rocky ridge before stretching his arms above his head. "Well, if there are people here, maybe they can tell us where we are." His stomach let out a loud growl, causing him to laugh awkwardly. "Yeah, and maybe they've got something good to eat too. We should figure this out fast though. I still want to get back and enjoy some time with Chi-Chi and Gohan before the Cell Games." Vegeta shot him an irritated look. "Food? That's what you're thinking about." He glanced back at the broken valley they had unintentionally created. "We don't know what this place is, who those people are, or how we ended up here in the first place. Start using your head, Kakarot. I have no intention of wasting time here when I should be training." Goku rubbed the back of his neck with a sheepish grin. "I'm just saying, asking someone is probably faster than wandering around." He looked toward the path the adventurers had taken. His expression shifted, becoming more serious. "Besides, we need to figure out how we got here. We were just training after getting out of the time chamber, and now we're in some completely different place. We got to get back before the Cell Games start." Vegeta remained silent for a moment before turning his eyes toward the horizon. The air was different here. He couldn't sense familiar ki, yet something about this world bothered him. It wasn't power. It was a feeling buried beneath the silence, like countless unseen eyes were watching from far away. It reminded him, faintly, of the strange stillness that followed their intense training, when everything felt too quiet after pushing their limits. He didn't like it. "Fine," Vegeta finally said. "We'll find those 3. If they know where we are, they'll answer. And if there's a way back to our world, we'll take it. I refuse to fall behind because of this." "And if they don't?" Goku asked. Vegeta smirked. "Then we'll find someone who does. I'm not staying stranded in some unknown world." Without another word, the 2 Scions leaped onto the mountain cliffs. Their bodies vanished into the distance with a burst of speed that left only a powerful gust of wind behind, shaking the trees and scattering loose stones across the valley. Far ahead, completely unaware, the 3 adventurers hurried towards civilization. convinced they had escaped the strongest beings they would ever encounter. They had no idea those same strangers were now following them. Deep within Nazarick, the throne room remained as silent as ever. Aang stood before the magical mirror, watching the image of the ruined mountain valley without saying a word. The two enormous craters dominated the landscape, while shattered cliffs and broken forests stretched far beyond what the mirror could show. Yet the one thing he wanted to see was nowhere to be found. Several minutes later, a ripple spread across the room as Aura's message arrived through the communication spell. Ain-sama, Aura's voice echoed. I've reached the location. The damage is even worse than we thought. Trees have been knocked down for hundreds of meters. The mountain itself has partially collapsed, but whoever caused this is already gone. She paused, crouching beside one of the massive footprints pressed deep into the stone. There are tracks leading away from the area. 2 sets. Humanoid. Aang's crimson eyes narrowed. Do not pursue. Silence answered him for a moment before Aura hesitated. Ain-sama, if I follow from a safe distance, I might. No. His reply was immediate. We know nothing about them. If they detected you before you detected them, you would only be placing yourself in unnecessary danger. Aura lowered her head, even though Aang could not see her through the spell. Understood. Aang slowly folded his hands behind his back. Instead, search the surrounding area. I want every detail. Tracks, broken weapons, monster corpses, signs of battle, anything they left behind. If there were witnesses, find them, but do not reveal yourself. As you command. The spell faded, leaving the throne room quiet once again. They're intelligent, Aang's thought. They left the impact site almost immediately. No celebration, no investigation, no attempt to hide the destruction. Either they don't realize what they've done, or they simply don't care. For the first time in years, Aang felt as though he were hunting an enemy whose next move he couldn't predict. And that uncertainty unsettled him more than any army ever had. The 2 scions followed the adventurers from high above, moving across the mountain peaks with effortless speed. They stayed just far enough away to avoid startling them, slowing their pace whenever the 3 men stopped to catch their breath. From above, Goku quietly took in the unfamiliar landscape. Endless forests stretched toward the horizon, broken only by rivers, distant hills, and small patches of farmland unlike anything he had seen before. This place is bigger than I thought, Goku said as they landed on the branch of a massive tree overlooking a winding road. A wooden wagon rolled below, pulled by 2 strange horned beasts instead of horses. Several merchants walked beside it, laughing and talking as though nothing unusual had happened that day. Goku watched with genuine curiosity. Those animals are weird too. Vegeta ignored the wagon entirely. His eyes remained fixed on the 3 adventurers in the distance. Notice something? He asked. Goku looked over. The adventurers hadn't stopped looking over their shoulders since leaving the valley. Every few minutes they turned, scanning the mountains as though expecting something to chase them. Goku nodded. Yeah, they're really scared. They're not scared of us anymore, Vegeta replied. They're scared of what they think we are. Neither scion spoke after that. For several minutes, they silently followed the trail until the thick forest finally began to thin. Beyond the last line of trees, smoke rose into the afternoon sky. Wooden walls surrounded a modest town, while farmers worked the nearby fields under the watch of armored guards standing atop the gates. Goku smiled. Looks like we found civilization. Vegeta's expression never changed. Now let's see if this world has any answers. The 3 adventurers slowed as the town gates came into view. Relief washed over their faces, but it didn't last long. One of them looked back toward the forest one final time before shaking his head. We can't tell everyone exactly what we saw, he said under his breath. No one's going to believe us. Then what do we tell the guild? Another asked. The truth, the older adventurer answered after a long pause. Even if it sounds impossible. High above the road, Goku and Vegeta watched from the thick branches of an ancient oak. Goku scratched his cheek. They're probably talking about us. Vegeta gave a quiet grunt. Good. That saves us the trouble of explaining ourselves. He jumped down from the tree, landing lightly on the road below. Goku sighed with a smile before following after him. The guard at the gate noticed them almost immediately. Two strangers. One dressed in a bright orange GI unlike anything they had ever seen. The other wearing dark blue battle armor that looked both elegant and intimidating. Neither carried a weapon, yet both walked with the calm confidence of seasoned warriors. The three adventurers froze. One of the younger men slowly pointed toward the approaching pair, his voice barely above a whisper. "They're here." Every guard instinctively placed a hand on the hilt of their sword as the gates fell silent. No one knew who the two strangers were, but everyone could feel they were unlike anyone who had ever walked through those gates before. The captain of the guard stepped forward, raising one hand to stop his men from drawing their weapons. Years of experience told him that panicking would only make the situation worse. His eyes briefly met those of the three adventurers, whose pale faces said more than any words could. Goku stopped a few steps from the gate and smiled. "Oh, hi." He waved awkwardly before rubbing the back of his neck. "Sorry to bother you, but me and my friend are a little lost. Could you tell us where we are?" The simple question caught everyone off guard. The stranger, who looked capable of crushing a boulder with his bare hands, sounded more like a traveler asking for directions than a warrior looking for trouble. The captain hesitated. "You stand before the town of Irantal, within the Sorcerer Kingdom." As soon as the words left his mouth, Goku and Vegeta exchanged confused glances. "The Sorcerer Kingdom," Goku repeated. Vegeta frowned. "I've never heard of it." The captain's expression tightened. "Then where exactly do you two come from?" For the first time since arriving in this strange world, neither scion had an answer. Goku looked toward Vegeta, hoping he might say something. Vegeta simply stared back at the captain, his sharp eyes searching for any sign of deception before finally replying. "That's exactly what we're trying to figure out." The captain studied the two strangers for several more seconds before finally relaxing his posture. "If you're truly lost, you're welcome to rest in our town until morning," he said. "It's small, but you'll find food, an inn, and an adventurer's guild branch. Someone there may know more than we do." Goku's face immediately brightened. "Really? Thanks." He gave the captain a grateful smile before looking toward the wooden walls surrounding the quiet settlement. Smoke drifted from dozens of chimneys. Children could be heard laughing somewhere beyond the gate, and the smell of freshly baked bread floated through the cool afternoon air. It was peaceful, almost comforting. Vegeta silently looked past the gates, studying every building, every guard, and every person he could see. His eyes narrowed slightly as he took in the details, committing them to memory out of instinct. There were no towering cities, no advanced technology, and no familiar sights from Earth. Everything, from the armor the guards wore to the horse-drawn wagons passing through the streets, looked centuries behind what he knew. Primitive, yet organized, he noted, his unease sharpening as he failed to detect anything resembling familiar energy signatures. "This isn't just another country," he muttered. "This is an entirely different civilization. And if that's true, then how far have we been thrown?" The three adventurers exchanged uneasy glances. They still couldn't erase the image of the shattered valley from their minds. As the gates slowly opened, the oldest of them stepped beside the captain and whispered quietly enough that only he could hear. "Send word to the guild." The captain's expression changed. "Why?" The adventurer swallowed. "Because if those two really don't know where they are." He glanced back at Goku and Vegeta. "Then someone needs to find out exactly who just walked into the town." As the heavy wooden gates slowly creaked open, the sounds of everyday life poured out into the street. Merchants called out to passing customers. Children chased one another through the narrow roads, and blacksmiths hammered away at glowing pieces of steel. For a brief moment, Goku almost forgot they had been ripped away from their own world. "Smells good," Goku said with a grin as his stomach growled once again. Vegeta rolled his eyes. "You think with your stomach more than your brain." Goku laughed. "Can't help it." The guards couldn't help but stare. These two men, they weren't acting like conquerors. They weren't acting like mercenaries. They weren't acting like adventurers. If anything, they looked like ordinary travelers who had somehow wandered into the wrong world. The older adventurer, however, knew better. His eyes drifted to the torn sleeve on Goku's orange GI. A small piece of orange cloth was missing. His heartbeat quickened. Without another word, he quietly turned and hurried toward the Adventurers Guild, disappearing into the crowd. Miles away, deep within the mountains, Aura slowly knelt beside one of the enormous craters. Her sharp eyes moved across the shattered stone before stopping on something caught beneath a broken branch. She reached down, picked it up. A small piece of orange fabric fluttered gently between her fingers. Aura's cheerful expression disappeared. She immediately raised a hand to activate the communication spell. Ainsama, I've found. She stared silently at the cloth. Our first clue.
And that's where we'll end the episode. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like and let me know what you think in the comments.